All right. There we are. Hello, hello. Gather round, gather round, gather round the digital campfire. We are Kate and Tanner Wendell, and we are continuing our video series here of examining 29 questions for the ordinary life.
Feels good to be back.
It's good to be back. Our goal was to do it every day consistently, and we didn't do it on Easter.
That was the first break.
Yeah. And then what was it? Did we how many times we didn't do it last night? Two nights ago.
Two nights.
Actually, two nights in a row.
Right.
We're not going to dwell on it too long. We were just sort of exhausted. We find ourselves at like this is the time that we're doing it. And we made a conscious decision to go, you know what, we're not just going to get on and lob it up. However, it is great to be back here, and this is probably the best chapter so far. This is chapter 12. So if you do join us, would love to know if you're on the replay, give us a little hashtag replay. And if you are joining us live, let us know where you're joining from and
that you can
what
hear
you're
us,
up to, that you can hear and see. I think we got the mute off. We got it all off. So
yeah,
we're good to go. The question is, how does life get to be the way it is? And there's lots of things that we highlighted in here that I think are great. Why don't you take it away, my love?
Well, we both read this and afterwards realized like this is the best chapter yet. So far, yeah. How does life get to be the way it is? And I feel like this chapter addresses so much of the underlining theme that we've talked about in the previous chapters, or really just like so many of the lives that we've done over the years. This is where we talk about our choice, our ownership of our life, the choices that we make sets the path that we go down, and it even addresses how we're affected by other people's choices. So here it says, the scary part is that we create the path that allows us to get trampled on. The title of the chapter is I Got Trampled on the Road Less Traveled. So we create the path that allows us to get trampled on. Even though the warning signs are there, we often choose differently. And that is so profound, I think, for today's age where so many people are quick, and we talked about this in a previous chapter, but so quick to blame and point the finger at that it's someone else's fault. Someone else did something to me. This happened to me. Life happens to you, right? Like you're playing the victim in everything rather than taking the ownership of how your life is evolving. And I did that for many, 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 many years, not understanding, well, I don't know why, like, I'm a good person. Like, you know, just the usual comments, like, I'm a good person. I don't deserve this, blah, 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 you know, and it's like, yeah, but
why do bad things happen to good people?
Why do bad things? And you know what? The reality is bad things do happen to good people. Like that's part of life. But what he also mentions, which I think is really important, is that these things show up in our life to help us grow and teach us something, right? So if we actually look at it and say, okay, this is in front of me for a reason, well, you know, what am I going to do with it? if nothing else, you have control over how you respond to the situation. And especially if it's someone else's actions that are affecting you. And we know that that happens. There are a lot of people who are doing certain things. Situations happen. It's the ownership is on them for that particular thing, but somehow it still affects us. And how did we make choices that brought this into our life? And how am I going to respond to it? Like nothing else, you have a choice in that. And that response will then set you down a path. You could go down a much greater path of greatness within yourself, or you can go down a path that's going to lead you to more bad situations.
Yeah, it's almost as you're talking about this, I'm like, it's unfathomable for me now to blame situations in my life on other people.
Yeah.
And my life was full of that. I mean, same way, right? I would never think. I always found a way that somebody else was responsible, or that like things were being done to me or happening to me. And as you're talking about that, I'm just like, man, I can't even relate with that. And it wasn't so long ago that, and we talked about this on one of the other one of the earlier conversations, one of the earlier chapters of responsibility, responsibility for your life and what that means, and why we have such a negative connotation, or at least why I had such a negative connotation, right? Because when we're kids, it's like, who's responsible for this? Who's responsible here? And that means you're going to get in trouble. And what it really means, though, when you become an adult and mature, not just old in age, and actually like an adult and mature, because I thought that through the process of getting older, you became more mature and an adult. And then what I realized is that many of us are just large children. We're full-size humans with the mental capacity and the emotional abilities of like a 7-year-old, maybe even younger than that. A lot of people get stuck somewhere early on in those years, and that just defines how they operate, for the rest of their life. And rather than unpack that stuff and go, oh, wait a minute, like, how do I want to do this? And let me learn some like philosophy and like, how do you navigate adulting? I hate that word. But like, how do you navigate this stuff as a grown human being, a mature, responsible human being, and learn skills and tools and learn more about yourself and be willing to sort of peel back the layers of BS. A lot of people, and so you'll see a post from me at some time in the future of me wrapped in bubble wrap. We've got to do that. I've got this idea, message I want to convey. But the point is that I feel
I'm learning the same time you are.
You're what?
I'm learning the same time you are to the audience.
It's just something it's just something that's been in my head, because I'm like, well, a lot of people wrap their emotions in drugs and alcohol and food and sex and porn and the news and whatever else, right? That's all external. And I don't want to feel, I know how this is going to play out. I don't want to get hurt again. I don't this. I've already made up my mind about how the world works and what's going to happen, and this person and that person and who's in the White House and blah, 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 blah. Like all the external stuff that most people are already just like, just on autopilot, automatically making those decisions. And I think one of the things that I learned through personal development is that in order to feel and have great joy, hi Emma, Emma's just like creeping up on us. In order to feel and have great joy, you also have to go equally to the bottom of that spectrum and to feel the other side of those emotions, whatever that looks like. Often it looks like fluid leaking from your face. And so I don't know, there's some stuff that I won't get into that triggered this these thoughts here, that I just wanted to convey, that is that most people just don't find that how to take responsibility, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing or a knock or a shaming. This is just purely an observation of where we were, what we see, and a different choice that we've made. And I hope you get to the guy about his lunch.
Well,
otherwise I'll talk about the lunch.
Yeah, we can get that. But what I wanted to tie in, that the fact that some people don't realize what this is because it comes from childhood experiences. And so I didn't realize until I became an adult in focusing on personal development and doing things that were going to improve my situation, that I realized, like, oh, this all ties back to childhood experiences that I didn't even realize that I had, and so I'm choking. And I just ripped my headphones out. You're playing with the sign.
I know. Sorry. I got totally distracted because it's backwards over there.
Oh, it's backwards on that side.
Yeah.
Now it's backwards on this side. Okay.
That's fine. We're learning. Keep talking.
But so what I thought was actually just really important. People don't get out of the victim mindset, because they don't realize that so much of what their choices are based off of things that happened in their childhood, and they don't even realize that. So they don't even know how to fix things. They don't even know where to start. So, Tanner and I both dove. I mean, really, it all started because we did personal development. We got into network marketing that helped us just broaden our minds of, like, oh my gosh, life could look so differently and in such a great way if we just work on some things, and recognizing that a lot of our choices as an adult all stem from childhood experiences. And once we were able to recognize that and take control over how, like, having that awareness that was like, oh, okay, this is what my past was. I don't want to keep that going. So I'm going to start making better choices and different choices to lead down to a different future. And so that's what we did, like, we just started working on all of that, and that lessened the victim mindset. And I'm with Tanner as well. Like, we both had that victim mindset, and now we're just like, yeah, no. And we bring in gratitude for the challenges that we have, the arguments that we may have had, like, and thankfully lately, like, we're not arguing anymore like we used to.
No, we did when we got together.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And there's something about my childhood that caused me to have to get up and fix that sign right now. I guarantee that. We did, and
we used to argue a lot. Yeah.
And
well, not a lot,
but what I think, what our therapist said though about that not so long ago, adulthood is our experiences, past, present, and future. Thanks for the comment, Randy. Adulthood is our experiences. Yeah. So I think kind of where you're going with that, and what I was just going to say is that something that our therapist brought to our attention, this was just like a few weeks ago, is that every time we'll just say we sit down in our living room and we have a disagreement. We really don't argue. Like, we have a disagreement about something,
right,
or whatever. We have a conversation about something that we're bringing all of our past relationships to that conversation.
Right.
And specifically because we've only known each other for just like less than 5 years, four and some change. And so we've both lived the majority of our life not knowing each other. We've been in other relationships with other people longer than we've been in relationship with each other. So when she said that, it's like, oh, sure, it makes sense hearing it, but it's not like we think about that, right? It's not like we sit down and go, oh wow, okay, I'm being triggered, or this is coming from this place. Like, we don't, because we're in our head and we're like reactionary. And so and not that has to be a bad thing, especially though when it comes to disagreements and arguing and friction in your relationship, that is being fueled by all of your past experiences. And so specifically what we work with her on is a technique called EMDR, and basically releasing all of those memories that are stored in our brain, and all of those sort of reactions, to be able to let that stuff go at a subconscious level. This isn't like, oh my God, I'm letting go, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really not that. It's really allowing her to guide us in the process, our brain to do the natural work that the brain does based on that modality, and then being more present in our conversations. And like you said, we just really don't have a need to argue, or we still disagree. And sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's fun to have little jabs or whatever. Right. And I see, Courtney's on. Rick gave some like,
yep,
and Rick's made a couple of references, like, and I can only imagine behind closed doors, like they're both fiery personalities, right? Like people that are driven, and people that want more, and people that have certain desires. Like, sure, even the person that you love the most and may agree with on a lot of things, like, it's likely that you're going to run into some things that cause some friction, and that's not a bad thing. It's more a matter of having the tools and the awareness to, as I said in my post a couple of days ago, not allow a grass fire to turn into a forest fire.
Yeah. So he just referenced this book here that, maybe you want to use it as a resource for yourself. He says, what is important is to realize that we need to become conscious of our choices and why we make them. The key is realizing that we work out of them until we awaken to them. And the book that he references here is by Dr. Kevin Leman, Unlocking the Secrets of Your Childhood Memories. And he has a quote here too, but tell the lunch story, because I know you like the lunch
story. I love this lunch story. And what he says is the story from that book. Is that what it is?
The story is from Robert Fulghum. It was on fire when I lay down on it.
Yeah, that's an interesting title. I can only imagine what that's about. But basically, it talks about a guy who always complained about his lunch, and the person that he was complaining to about his lunch asked him who packed his lunch, and he responded, I do. And so the whole point is, like, if you don't like what's in your lunch, stop packing the same stuff in your lunch. And said another way, if you don't like what's in your life, stop packing, stop creating the same things over and over in your life. Like, I love analogies and stuff like that, because I think for me, that's where I have had and do have the biggest sort of awarenesses and ahas of being like, oh, if we can compare our life to our lunch, and you don't like your lunch, yet you keep packing the same thing over and over, probably because you don't know how to pack anything else, right? Like, my mom taught me how to make one type of sandwich, and so I always pack that sandwich, but I always complain because I never have liked that sandwich. Like, that's literally everything else in your life. And the other thing that I learned specifically from a 9-day men's leadership retreat with Sai Seminars was that how you do one thing in your life is how you do everything in your life. And Like, I really didn't think that was true. Like, it's a nice catchy phrase, and I'd heard people say that before. When you spend 9 days on a ranch in isolation, doing what seem like menial sort of ranch type tasks, but then you spend time in a classroom extrapolating it, I'm like, oh my God, that's 100% that way. And there's just a, there's a there's a there's actually several stories from that time where I had that awareness, and I'm like, we're picking up tree branches, right? And I'm like, nah, what do tree branches have to do with anything else in my life? And then me and my buddy go and like, oh, we got to go get some stuff across the ranch. And so we went and we got some other stuff, and then we saw some people and they had like lunch and snacks, and we stopped, and it's like, we left for a 5-minute task and we were gone for 25 minutes. And I looked at my buddy and I was like, dude, I do this all the time in my
Yes.
life. Like, I literally think like, oh, this is just a quick interruption to my day. And before I know it, I am completely down another road. And, and then I
It's
felt
what
bad because I'm like, oh, well, we just left 3 people on the hill doing the work, and we went to, get some stuff. Like, it took 2 of us to drive a vehicle to go, like, whatever, pick up something. Like, it just didn't. But he and I, like, that's why we connected. That's why we're buddies. Cause we're like, oh yeah, dude, we're the guys that do that. We're the guys that are like, hey, let us go put on our cape and we're going to come back with some sandwiches and cookies and everybody's going to be happy. And then we'll all just forget that we ditched you for 30 minutes while you were here doing work. And we were off screwing around, talking to people, getting sandwiches, eating cookies, like whatever. And it's just how you do one thing in your life is how you do everything. And like, that was what, 3-4 years ago now, and
it still shows up.
Working on it.
It says here we need to pay attention to our thoughts because they direct so many of our decisions and choices. And that, I think, is also a really thing to be aware of, because our thoughts create our reality. And nowadays, where people are just so negative in their self-talk, like, well, no wonder life is not looking super fantastic for you, because you're thinking all these negative thoughts. So it's really, really important to think about what you're feeding your brain and what you are just engulfing every day to help create a positive mindset or negative mindset. And I lived by the news for a very long time. And I also suffered from depression for a very long time, right? So
weird.
I wonder why that is. So I really think, like, not a think. I know from my experience, like, and Tanner knows from his experience, and so many other people have talked about this. What you feed your brain matters, because words matter, right? We say that now so often. Like, there are just little things that, like, I pick up on from what maybe my mom or family would say from growing up. And now as a parent, as a mom, I'm saying that to my kids. And I'm like, but wait a minute, words matter, right? Like, I don't know that I want to say that. So just a simple example is, like, our daughter, she came in from the snow today, and her like she didn't leave her gloves on, and so her hands literally were like so cold, and that burning sensation that happens with
you could tell it was happening. She was just like freaking out.
She was hysterically crying, and my mom would be like, "Oh, poor Charlotte, it's okay, poor." And Tanner's like, "But she's not poor. Like, she's not a poor thing. Like, she's a perfectly healthy, happy, wonderful child, and is experiencing something that we've all gone through, and she's just experiencing it at a young age." So it's just little things like that. Like, pay attention to your words, but on a bigger scale, like, where are you getting your food? We pay attention to the food that we intake for our body. We should be the same way with our mind.
Well, not everybody does.
Well, that's true, but that's more of the forefront, right? Like people talk about like, oh, you got to eat healthy and you got to, whether we do or not. I mean, it's point is the same thing for your
True
brain.
story.
Yeah.
Feed your body, feed your body, feed your brain.
Feed your brain.
And I don't know. There were a lot of other things. I feel like we've gone down several.
I like the last quote on the end page too. If we can end with that one. But I also thought it was interesting, like when we're talking about childhood memories, he referenced how he was brought up that rich people are bad, right? Money's bad. And a lot of people have this mindset that, oh, if I make too much money, I make like a lot of money, then that's bad. Right. And the people who make a lot of money are bad. And we've said numerous times over the years that having a lot of money actually just accentuates who you are. So if you're already a bad person, you're just going to be more of a bad person.
Money's a multiplier.
Yeah. If you're a good person, you're going to do great things with all that extra income that you're making. So, but that's something that, money has been definitely something that we've been brought up with in a certain way. I haven't been brought up that money is bad, but I definitely have a distinct vision of like, but I shouldn't have too much, right? Where you've been brought up like, oh, the rich people are bad people, so we've got hang-ups from.
There's a dichotomy in my household for sure.
Yeah.
And still lives on with my family. We've spent a lot of money to fix our money mindset.
Yeah.
Especially when we got into business for ourselves, we realized that at some point, if we have negative perceptions around people with a lot of money, why would we ever earn more money than we already earn? And I think one of the best analogies that I have heard about money and resonate with is it literally is like a thermostat in your house, right? And so like, right now it's snowing, we've got our thermostat set to like 71, and that heater runs to get it up to 71, but as soon as it gets to 71, it kicks off and it doesn't do anything until it drops below, and then it turns back on. And so if your money thermostat is set at 60, 50, 100, 200, whatever $1,000 a year, you will never earn $500,000, $1 million, 10 million, $50 million a year. You won't. And because you have no idea what you would do with that much, you don't think you deserve that money. You couldn't even comprehend the type of work that you would do. All of those things that we went through. And the other thing is, if you don't have a plan for it, you'll never have it, right? If you don't think about, like, for anybody that thinks, oh man, I wish I could make more money, right? Just think, like, if you doubled your salary, what would you do with that extra money? And for a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Oh, I'd pay down my debt. I'd do this. I'd blah, blah, blah. People are like, oh, well, I'd get a new car. I would go on vacation. And when you start to get into like, well, if I had more money, I'd just buy more stuff and blow it on more things. And it's all about me, me, me. Chances are you're not going to have that money. One, from a spiritual perspective, and I have no idea how we got on this, but I'm just going to finish this thought. One, from a spiritual perspective, and we just believe, like, we've through the work that we've done and the courses that we've taken, we just believe that money is a spiritual energy. It's a spiritual power. It's more spiritual than it is financial, or whatever the other term is, like a hard asset. And so for us, and I said this in the church class that we were in, I've said this several times, I started learning about the correlation of money and religion, and specifically tithing, and started tithing out of a selfish, not a greedy, out of a selfish matter though, because I thought, if I understand this and if it's true that I tithe and I give 10% of my income back to where I get my spiritual food, my church, other organizations, that's now expanded to other organizations where we get our spiritual food, or other churches, things that we watch online, or other programs that we come across that we get value from, that we think contributing to will provide value to other people. I wanted to test that theory, quite frankly.
Both of us
And
did. Yeah.
yeah, like very, very faithful person, my wife is, but was not consistently and purposefully tithing.
Nope.
And so I'm like,
I gave, but not to the extent of understanding it's 10% and you tithe first. That's the thing that I think was really powerful that we learned in Dave Ramsey's course is you tithe first, and then you pay your bills.
Yeah.
Then you pay for the extra stuff. And that was just not taught to me. And yeah.
Yeah, when you prioritize it that way, right? Because most people go, "Oh, well, I don't have any money. I don't have enough money to give to the church," right? I don't have something went on with the focus there. I don't have enough money, blah blah blah, and that's usually people, and it's like, okay, well, then that's probably going to continue to be that way, and it doesn't mean let me tithe, or let me set up that auto pay based on what I was getting paid, last year, and then I got a raise. I mean, quite frankly, we've had to be vigilant about it. I mean, I remember, I got a bonus at the end of the year. What was that, a couple years ago? And we're like, oh, what are we going to do as a bonus? And we had some debt, and we wanted some things, and we wanted, all of this stuff. And I was like, whoop, hold up. Like, let's take that 10% off the top right away. And now it's something where, I wouldn't say that I'm feared. That God-fearing thing. I haven't quite owned that. It's not that I'm afraid. However, it is something that I'm like, whoa. Like, I believe I'm getting an increase financially because of this principle. I better follow through on that principle with this increase. And we've had to, up and up and up what that looks like as the financial gifts increase. And it would be very easy. And we went through this, we were sort of cheating the system. We were giving 10%, and then our salaries went up, or we got another stream of income. And it's like, oh, we hadn't thought to include that in our 10%.
It took us a minute, but yeah, but it came, like the light bulb went on, and then we're like, okay, that's what we got to do. And to reference the God-fearing, not in that like, oh, I should be scared of God. It is the awe of God. That's, I mean, they should probably say it a different way, but that's really, that's
more like God respecting to me.
Yeah, but semantics. That's not semantics. But the point is, though, that is an awe of God, because it's like, whoa, if I do this is what I get in return. Like, holy crow, right? So this is definitely point being, though, back to the chapter, that childhood perceptions and experiences and things that we were taught and learned, like, around money, actually plays a factor in how you're living out your adult life. And we were prime example of that, and how we worked at overcoming it and getting to a different place. And man, when I tell you, like, how much it has just paying attention to tithing and saying to God that we are taking care of what you are giving us, that he is now rewarding us tenfold, and continues to do so. And we continue to do it. So we can, it's just a beautiful circle. So yeah, go back to the childhood, and we've had really tremendous eye-opening experiences in doing EMDR. It's a form of therapy that we've really taken to, and we do it weekly now, where we're like, yeah, we got to get rid of all this stuff that's in the back of our brain that is creating like choices in our life today that we don't want to continue to carry on. And we're working on it, and it's just something every day that we work on, because we know that there is more potential within us than what our past kind of led us to this point. So we're gonna unlock it, and we're gonna go. So
Another
yeah.
analogy I like, and then I'll read this last thing in here. We were all
Okay.
over the map, so if you hung in there with us, thanks
Thank
thanks for
you.
doing so. Sometimes these
Oh,
most of the time these are as much as us working out our own stuff here and walking through it. So if there's value, great. If there's not, you're on to Tiger King or whatever that is. So
yeah,
what I don't get it. Now I totally lost my thought. Oh, I got it. Bingo. Let me grab it back. Put it in there. The analogy that I like is, if you had something in your car rattling around in your trunk that was driving you nuts, would you continue to leave it rattling around, or would you at some point stop and go, you know what? I have to find that thing that's rattling around in my trunk and causing me issues. And when you say, what's rattling around in the back of your mind, that's what comes up for me, which is like, you've got stuff rattling around. You can't see it because it's in the trunk and it's not really easy to access. You can't just pull over and reach in the back seat because it's in the trunk. But if you stop and you get out and you pop the trunk and you dig around in there, which is the work of digging around in your soul and your mind and your past, you can find what's rattling around and get rid of it, so you can continue on your journey without that nuisance.
yeah.
And the final thing here, I feel like okay, so this came from Beatrice Berry, who's a PhD motivational speaker and author. I feel like Bo says this, doesn't he? Doesn't Bo Eason say this? The quote is, "When you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny." And the whole thing here, this chapter, we've
Yeah, some
talked much
variation of that.
longer and much broader than what the point of this chapter is. But the whole thing here with this chapter is that you are responsible for your life. You are responsible for your actions. You are responsible for what's in your lunch. And if you don't like what's in your lunch, change what you're making and putting in your lunch, i.e., change your actions, change your thoughts, change the results that you get in your life. And when you start to take steps in purpose and you're living a particular way, the God equation, the other half, like the miraculous and the mysterious things in life, tend to show up. And if you're taking, I'll just say, negative actions or actions that aren't positive and in the direction of upward mobility of your life, it's just funny how bad choices and bad decisions can spiral down and down and down. And I've experienced that. And on the converse, I've experienced that it's also very interesting how, when I'm in alignment with my soul and my purpose and taking positive actions and in the direction of upward mobility, that all of a sudden it just escalates up and up and up. And I'm like, wow, how quickly life accelerated in the direction that I wanted to go. And I didn't have to do it all. It literally works. Like, I look at that as like a mirror or two-sided coin, whatever. Like, it literally works the exact same way. It starts with your choices and your view on your responsibility for your life, which dictate the actions that you're going to take, which ultimately turn out to be the results that you have in your life. And the universe, God, whatever you think, the people around you, you're like a magnet. and whatever magnetic
True.
field you are putting out, man, like that is the stuff that is going to stick to you. And
Yeah.
it doesn't all have to be your stuff, but other stuff that matches your stuff is gonna stick to you.
So what do you want to stick to you? Good stuff or the not so good stuff?
And that's your definition.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
whatever it is, just know that like attracts like, success begets success. Winners win, man. Who says that? E.T. Eric Thomas, like, winners win, man. Winners win. I can't understand. You know, I can't explain it, but winners win. And I heard him yell that I don't know how many times. And I'm like, oh no, I get it. Because what he's not saying is that losers lose, right? If you view yourself as a loser, if you treat your life like you're a loser, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Life's going to be hard. It's going to suck, you know, like you're going to get hit in the face. But the reality is that you're also going to struggle and have challenges. If you are a winner and you're striving for greatness, it's just that you're more in control of those challenges because you know the path that you're on, you know the destiny, you know where you're headed, and you expect to have obstacles and hurdles along the way.
Mhm.
And that's just the difference.
We wish you abundance in your life. So go out, seek it, and you will attract it too.
Think about what you are attracting with the magnet called your life.
Your life.
And on that note, we're going to send you out with a little bit
of some hope in the world.
This is our theme song.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to fast forward it here to get to the... There we go.
Nice and smooth, honey. Nice and smooth.
It's a one-man production show here.
Isn't he doing so
Doing
good?
the best that I can.
He's doing so good.
Just having fun.
Love you, honey.
That's what matters the most. All right.
Have a good rest of your night.
Thanks for tuning in.